Warning: the Duracell Cup Series data file you have attempted to access is out of date. Uploading current file now.
It's a brand new car from stem to stern. and it's never been raced at these speeds.
The next gen car is opportunity.
Everything is different with the exception of like the seat, the steering wheel, and your helmet.
Unknown creates excitement.
The high banks of Daytona International Speedway is where we arrive, getting ourselves ready for the start of Season 6 of the NNSCRA Duracell Cup Series. And of course, we started off with the big one, the Daytona 500, but we've got to set the field. And it kicks off here today with pole day qualifying. All 42 drivers will take the track here today to try and set the either fastest or second fastest lap to be the ones to lead us to the green next Sunday. I'm Seth Cole, being joined here. It's a plethora of people in the booth here today. Michael Norman, Dylan Pote, Kyle Matthews alongside. Gentlemen, welcome. I'm going to start first with you, Dylan. I mean, here today, drivers are trying to get that fastest lap with that second fastest lap. Now, we know that the engineers, obviously, it's a bit of pride for them if their car can go to the top of the board. We know that drivers like to have that clean starting track position in the Daytona 500, but what does the driver really get out of it here today? Why do we set aside this specific day for this type of an event?
Well, I mean, other than the qualifying, they get a good feel, just kind of see what their car's going to be like for the big race, for the Daytona 500. I mean, it gives them a lot of time. And then you get a lot of notes, maybe what they need to do and tweak to make their car a little bit better in the draft, maybe about themselves, just kind of to see what they've got for this race. And yeah, there's a lot of pride, like you said, for the teams and the drivers to get up front and try to be on the front row for this event. Like I said, they still have to get through the duels and everything, survive those to keep their starting spots. But I mean, there's not anything much better to ask for than be on the front row for the Daytona 500. You see nothing but just the pace car in front of you and a clear track.
Michael, you're very familiar with the super speedway. You've been to here in real life several times. People might think that it's kind of a Sunday drive these drivers are out there for, but it's anything but that.
Yeah, it really isn't. I mean, like for pole day qualifying here, it is a Sunday drive. You're just out there trying to make the quickest 2 laps you can get out of your car, and then after that, practice, dual races, more practice. It's all about setting your car right, because with 38, 40 other drivers out there, it's going to be a crapshoot, and you got to position yourself to be at the right place at the right time.
Breaking down the fourth wall, obviously all 3 of the drivers we have here in the commentator's booth here today, you're going to be seeing out on the racetrack. But Kyle, you come into this season one of the defending champions. I mean, what kind of pressure is there on a driver coming into a track like Daytona, the Daytona 500? You haven't won the 500 here in the Duracell Cup Series in your career. I mean, obviously that's got to be, I think it's on your bucket list now after winning the championship.
Oh, it definitely is. I mean, winning the championship is, probably the highest thing you can do in this series. But this is the biggest race that we have. Like, we start out the year with our biggest race, and that's definitely something that we all want to do. And hopefully, we can get it done.
Hey, look who we're starting with.
Look at that! It's breaking down the fourth wall even more.
Man, Kyle, you really got down to the car fast.
Yeah.
Did you have your mic with you? Did you take one with you to the car?
Yeah, in qualifying reporter, I guess you could say.
That's a long extension cord.
Hey, this isn't wrestling.
They phoned Kyle Petty. He had to do both jobs. They couldn't afford anybody else. They had to do 2.
So you see on the left side of your screen, we've got the 1 through 42. You'll see the drivers' lap times come in as they cross the line. The first car out here, Kyle Matthews 09, Kings Island Chevrolet Camaro S3 Motorsports. We're going to be seeing this car take the warm-up lap. When he hits the line, the green flag waves next time around. The lap time that he sets is going to be the official lap time here in pole day qualifying. We are not going to see all 42 cars come right off of pit road. We'll be seeing these drivers once Kyle Matthews heads into turn 1. Next car will be sent out onto the racetrack, so we'll have a nice fluid motion here to be able to get all of these lap times put down. But obviously S3 Motorsports, going back to the 4-car team, last year was unorthodox to say the least. We ended up having, I think it was 29 full-time teams, 3 drivers per team. So you ended up seeing drivers every 3 weeks. Now the teams have kind of gotten back to normal. Most drivers have expanded back out to the normal 3 or 4 car teams, and drivers will get to be behind the wheel week after week. So it'll give drivers at least a little bit of consistency of driving time now.
Yeah,
Yep.
this is definitely going to be different. Like I said, they haven't done this in a while. As you see, Kyle actually cuts the apron there. I guess every, 10th anything matters for this. Yeah, it's definitely going to be a little bit of a growing pain to kind of get used to just being back in the seat every week. I'm sure the drivers are really excited about that for sure, though.
I think the fans are going to be excited about that too. It's not going to be as confusing trying to figure out who's in what car each race. So seeing consistency with the same driver in the car every week, it'll be a lot easier.
And of course, as well, with the fact that, theoretically, every driver only made, what would it have been 12 starts last season. A number of drivers came into that year as rookies, and since they didn't meet the required 15 starts to not be in the rookie class, there are a few drivers that we'll see here in this qualifying session that are still donning the rookie stripes, even though they ran full-time, and I'll put that in air quotes, they ran the 12 required races last season for their respective teams. Now, this driver does not fit that bill. Destin Bolin making his debut in the Duracell Cup Series, a rookie out of Young Motorsports, and Young Motorsports undergoing a change as well. You'll notice that the 12 is not the Penske font that Young Motorsports usually has. Instead, they've actually gone over to the Stewart Haas Racing Xfinity type number font for their cars this season.
Kellogg's being back in the sport as well. It's nice to see an old, sponsor like that back in the day. We used to see like in the 90s and the early 2000s. Really nice to see them back. And yeah, maybe they're just kind of wanting to do an identity for themselves and kind of break away from the Penske kind of look to it.
Still not.
Oh, go ahead.
That's what you mentioned the sponsorship. I'm still not used to seeing Kellogg's on a Ford. Like, I'm kind of an older guy here. I'm more used to seeing
Carl Edwards. Edwards had Kellogg's.
Still, I'm still used to seeing it on the number 5 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet. But
It's okay. Carl Evers has been gone for like an eternity at this point. So
it
feels like
seems-
Yeah, pretty much.
Michael's been quiet over there. What do you think about all this going on? What do you think you've seen so far?
Well, I'm seeing a very unique style of qualifying here. It's 1 lap instead of 2 here, so you really get that just one wind-up lap that you get. So coming out of turn 4, that's when you slowly want to make your way down towards the bottom. But, Seth, we've seen qualifying right here that running around the bottom isn't always the fastest way around.
No, not really. And it was interesting you bring that up because I was noticing some of these drivers, they were swinging it down to the yellow line after they come off of turn 2. A lot of times, preferably, I like to let the car kind of point its way towards the outside wall down the back straightaway because you get a little bit more straighter speed rather than turning the wheel. It's really all about fluid movement at very little wheel input that's going to get you that top speed. As saw Jesse Turner, 49.404 right now, has got him third of the 3 cars. Here's another S3 Motorsports Chevrolet, Charles Sanford in the 03. The 03 team last year, obviously coming up short of making it into the playoffs. Neither Sanford nor Shelton nor Deaver were able to find victory lane. The 09 team obviously winning the championship, but the 03 team did pretty well for themselves last year in the fact that they did finish 11th overall in points. So, I mean, credit to them in the fact that even though they didn't make the playoffs, I believe they were actually the highest finishing team that didn't make the playoffs. So both the S3 Motorsports teams last season did really well.
Yeah, and it was like I said, this not really what some drivers want to be in that position, the best of the rest, basically, and not being the first one out, unfortunately. But it has to give them a little bit of hope going back into the full-time capacity like this with just single drivers, knowing that they got great equipment. They really were turning it around there late in the season. I'm sure they're really looking forward to this. As Sanford here, it looks like he's going to finish his lap, and he's going to clock in. It's like second there, right behind Bolin, and right in front of his teammate there, Kyle Matthews. So the times look pretty close. I was actually going to bring up a point. We were talking about how these guys, the racing lines and stuff, and how they're doing their qualifying laps. Another big aspect is their launch coming off pit road, because that honestly gets them up and going as quickly as they can. That honestly can make the difference potentially of getting the pole or not qualifying, even though maybe the top 10 or versus maybe in the 30s.
Absolutely can. You're looking here at rookie William Hoer. How about Lego sponsoring a car here this season? And what an opportunity for a rookie like William, driving for Blue Oval Automotive. Of course, that team won the championship with Jordan Lopez back in Season 3, I believe it was. Also, consider the fact that Lopez took a Daytona 500 win here back in Trey Wright took a Daytona 500 win back here in Season 4, driving for the team. Jordan Lopez, a former Daytona 500 pole sitter in Season 4. And if you look at our overall leaderboard of drivers that have won, 19 combined wins between Jose Mills and Jordan Lopez, top 2 in all-time wins here in Duracell Cup Series.
How about that paint scheme right there? You mentioned
Very
Legos as
bright.
a sponsor. I mean, I can't tell if those are Legos all over the car,
Hey,
or
it's
if this thing was vandalized by graffiti. I mean, this thing really stands out. I like the look of it.
The sponsorship placement is on key. You have all of them like poured out and stuff, every different color and everything.
Puts a smile on the spotter's face. Very easy to pick out.
Speaking of a sponsor that I really like, here's the Hooters Ford of Dylan Young.
I just want to point out he went to the top of the board with that lap.
Oh yeah, he did.
I mean, wow, that's what 300th pickup on Destin Boland's lap.
And maybe he had a good launch there because it looks like everybody for the most part is doing the same thing, kind of like the same spots. And I'm kind of not used to seeing people cut to the apron on the front stretch, which is kind of new to me, but it seems to be working. And whatever he did, it got him to the top.
Yeah, we mentioned like how these cars, how we're, years past we're used to seeing them kind of just run the outside line right next to the wall in the opening lap. These cars, a little bit different. The cars in the past, they had a restrictor plate. These cars actually have a tapered spacer. And so these cars kind of get up to speed a little bit differently than they used to. So there is a little bit of strategy when it comes to qualifying here.
It's a great point too, because we're talking about like the different drivers, different teams, different manufacturers. But you bring up that point, the next gen cars. The first time that the Duracell Cup Series drivers are even qualifying next gen cars here at Daytona.
Yeah, that's I was about to.
Fastest.
I'm wondering too if the draw maybe being later in this is going to be beneficial for these drivers late compared to early, because it looks like it's starting to pick up a little bit of speed here on the track.
Well, what about maybe the weather conditions? I mean, sunny Florida, but you could get a cloud or two that gets in front of that sun, cools the track down just a little, maybe gives a little bit of added grip on the warm-up lap.
And they may have gotten a little bit of a gust there down the backstretch, maybe push them down the straightaway. Maybe that's what helped the top two there and kind of gap away from the rest of the field so far. So that could have been a possibility.
So interesting. We have Dylan Young, Destin Boland teammates right now, kind of one behind the other. You've got Charles Sanford, Kyle Matthews, one behind the other there in terms of speed. We've got now the second entry out of Lake Effect Autosport, the rookie Benjamin Snyder. Jesse Turner, so far out of the 6 drivers that have taken time, slowest on the board. So you got to wonder if the 74 is going to be around the same speed level as the 47, or if he'll be a tick quicker, because sometimes you end up having teammates in the garage that'll go to each other and try each other's setups, but sometimes they kind of don't talk to each other. They keep it to themselves of what they might have underneath the hood.
And as crazy as it may sound as well, some of these guys, maybe some of these teams are not really worried about qualifying as much. Like I said, with the charters and all that, they're not really worried about missing races and stuff. But some of these guys may just be in their race setup, honestly, and maybe put more effort into that. So maybe getting ahead of the game, they may sacrifice a little bit of their qualifying, their starting spot, but some of these teams may be looking, ahead to the Daytona 500 and just getting that in their minds right now.
See there, Benjamin Snyder.
It looks like he tied.
He did. He tied Destin Boland. So let me explain the tiebreakers here today. There are 2 ways that a tiebreaker can take place. In the first case that we see here, Destin Boland, Benjamin Snyder, both of them making their debuts here in the Duracell Cup Series. So whichever driver in that kind of a scenario had gone out and laid down the lap time first, they would have the advantage position-wise, which is why the 12 is ahead of the 74. But let's say we have a case here with Keith Batson. Let's say that he ties Dylan Young for second fastest on the board. The 2 team last season was 18th in overall points. The 39 team was 25th. So the 2, by virtue of last year's owner points, would have the advantage.
Okay, gotcha. Good little paint scheme here for Keith Batson, that Mustang. Definitely seems like that car's really gripped pretty good to the bottom right now, and it looks like it's going to be a good lap from what I've seen. We'll take a look and see what happens here and do the usual cut to the apron.
Vision?
Yeah, he's going to be 3rd probably. Oh my god!
Oh my gosh! All right, so let's skip all of qualifying. Dylan, who's going to win the 500?
Well, it's going to be me, obviously. No. Well, not this guy. I mean, oh, well.
Michael Norman in the Dr. Pepper Ford Mustang. Michael Norman Motorsports, pretty much the majority of the career here in the Duracell Cup Series, they've run Chevrolets. I think there was a time, I want to say season 2, where they ran Toyotas, but now moving over to the Ford Mustangs. Got a pretty good lineup as far as their drivers this season also.
No, I'm almost pretty sure it was all Chevys until I switched to Fords because I don't ever remember running a Toyota.
This is the first time I remember.
I thought
This-
maybe
this
maybe
just-
I'm thinking back to Hershey's Cup then, because it seemed
E-
like I
either
remembered
that-
when
no,
Cody
the
drove for
last
you, he
time
was
I-
actually in a Toyota.
This
Last
just
time I
looks
ran it-
weird.
Last
This
time
is-
I remember running a Toyota was like in an Omni.
No,
Series
it
with
was
Matt
season
Rod.
1. Season 1. I do remember this because I remember Matt McIntyre drove the 7 for your team, and he was in a Toyota.
Well, maybe they
This just
couldn't
looks
afford
weird
it.
seeing Michael in a Ford.
Well,
Like you
I'm
mentioned, I'm
used
so
to
used
it.
to it being being in a Chevrolet, but
He cuts to the apron here. He's not going to be third. He's going to be sixth.
6th place for Michael Norman.
And you were talking about the lineup. Who all was going to be in his lineup this season with his team?
Well, so far, from what I can remember with my limited memory, you got Michael in the
Very
22, you
limited
got Mitchell
memory.
Collins, we'll see later on, in the 33, Chris Dollerton in the 43, and I can't remember, is there another driver?
Well, I actually
I don't know.
explained my situation because I know Twinix Racing was going to
Nobody
actually
cares
be an
about your
alliance.
situation.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
that was
they
a
were-
very
they-
strange thing. I mean, preseason Thunder, 2 races,
Show-
we see you
showed
in a
up at a
Ford, and all of a
Ford.
sudden, 3rd race, we see you in a Chevrolet.
Well, Twinix, I think we were going to have an alliance with them, and funding decided wanted to go elsewhere. Unfortunately, the teams had to take probably a season off and had to go elsewhere. So it is what it is. But back in the Chevy as usual.
Zachary Fitzwater in the 66. Now, remember I said earlier that there were drivers that drove last season, but since they only made 12 starts, they still are donning the rookie stripes this year. Fitzwater is one of those said drivers. He drove as one of the part-time drivers in the 12 car for Evans Gardner Motorsports, but this season going to be driving all 36 races. And talking about those 36 races, I mean, a lot of changes made to the schedule, a lot of new tracks added. And the fact that we're not going to be ending out the season at Homestead, the championship's going to be decided at Michigan, of all places.
Yeah, it's definitely a big time difference there going to a big track like Michigan. And to bring up a point too, this last season was the first season we did the next gen cars, it looks like here. So a lot of these drivers have very limited experience with the next gen car, and a lot of them are still learning it honestly as well. Going to these tracks for the first time with this car and just kind of seeing how it feels. Michigan could be a big time wild card, honestly. It don't look like a wild card like a plate race, honestly.
So
We don't know what to expect.
So far in Duracell Cup Series, we have had 5 different drivers win the Great American Race. Subsequently, we've had 5 different drivers start on the pole position. James Qualls in the 70 this season would like to change that. He is the defending pole sitter of the Daytona 500.
Veteran for the series for sure. It's good to see James coming around with that 70 car like we always see. Yeah, like you said, he's hoping he can bring it back and get the pole back to back. But like I said, these new cars are a complete mystery for a lot of these drivers with very limited experience and stuff. But like I said, it won't take them that long, I don't think, to get used to these.
You want to know where the toughest place is here on Daytona to be able to make sure that the lap is consistent and the speed stays consistent?
Your face.
I mean,
Well, not that.
maybe.
Well, not going to see a repeat, looks like,
It's,
for
it's
Qualls.
actually turn 4. Turn 4 is one of the toughest areas because the back end of the car wants to step out. I can't tell you how many times I've turned qualifying laps here, and if you hear a little bit of tire squeal, you know that you've lost a mile per hour or 2 of straightaway line speed coming back to the start-finish line. If you can get that thing planted, get the nose pointed, and not hear that tire squeal, then you know you got a money lap.
Oh, it looks
Here's
like we got
somebody
the
that-
last car
here's
here.
Here's somebody that knows how to get around a super speedway, Jessica Shelton in the 02. Love that throwback Bill Elliott paint scheme on there, that Coors Light, the Coors Chevrolet.
Wanted to kind of get the speed that Bill had in that car to get some of these records at like the plate tracks, hoping for the same result here.
I believe Shelton's last Duracell Cup Series win took place at a Super Speedway, Season 3 Armory Digital Super Speedway, if I recall correctly.
I don't know.
Oh.
Can you recall correctly?
I don't know.
Well, nonetheless, though, she's got the experience on these plate tracks and usually one of the ones you want to be working with because she usually finds a way to the front of these tracks. Definitely looking forward to seeing what she can do in this race, and definitely think she'll be a threat for the 500. Like I said, any of these plate tracks, you can put her at the top of the list, being one of the threats to win there.
See where Shelton clocks in with the 0-2 9th of the 12
Right
drivers.
down there with the other S3 cars. I mean,
Brings up
that's,
a good point.
you called
though.
it earlier.
Yeah,
so.
They're
Poteet
right on top of
said,
each
you
other.
know, that some drivers might not be focused on qualifying, might be basically just running their race setup right now and preparing for the upcoming Blame Shelley Insurance duels on Thursday. Obviously, we not only determined the Daytona 500 front row here today, but we also subsequently set up the grids for those 2 dual races.
I got absolutely just mind boggled right there. Like, I was confused when I saw his car, and I was just thinking 22. It's not the 22. It's the 33.
This is
of
Mitchell Collins. And it's interesting because I brought this up in last week's Clash as well. It just kind of seemed like a perfect fit. Mitchell Collins has spent most of his career over with Young Motorsports. Last year, he drove for Joanna Atwood Motorsports, running in the 17 car. So he's basically been a Ford driver his entire Duracell Cup Series career. But now moving over to Michael Norman Motorsports, we know Michael Norman's a Joey Logano fan. When Collins made his debut in the series, he had Shell Pennzoil as a sponsor, so I don't know, it just kind of seems like it all came full circle for Collins.
Well, I don't think they wanted to sponsor the 22, so they went to the 33. But anyway.
Mitchell Collins, a 3-time winner in the Duracell Cup Series. Been a bit of a winless streak for this driver, as he's going to come to the line, and what's he going to clock in at? That was up to 4th.
I was about to say, I haven't felt like we've had anybody get really close to the pole time, but we're creeping a little bit back up there. It's kind of been hit or miss, but the top 2 or 3 have kind of been safe for a while. We have to just kind of wait and see what happens.
Rob Evans, the 9D Creative Chevrolet out of Evans Gardner Motorsports. Rob Evans still looking for that first career win in the Duracell Cup Series. Back in season 4, when we had the charter and non-charter system, Evans drove in the non-charter series and picked up a victory at Indianapolis Road Course, but he's yet to have a chartered victory here in Duracell Cup Series competition. And just looking at the board right now, I know that we've only had 13 drivers go out there, but I can't help but notice that the Fords have seemed to have quite good qualifying speed. You've got Hoer in the top spot right now, Dylan Young in 2nd, Collins jumped up to 4th, Batson, Bolin right behind there in 6th and 7th. You got a couple of Chevrolets breaking up that party, and Fitzwater and Qualls, but the Blue Ovals, at least for the moment, they're the only manufacturer that's broken into the 3.5s.
Yeah, I think the Ford seems like they have maybe a little bit of an advantage. It seems like it is kind of like in real life. The Ford seem to always have the best super speedway packages and how their cars are. But again, like I said, we don't know if some of these teams... Oh,
there you go. There's a Chevy in the 3.5s. Evans.
There we go. Snuck right on in there. Evans
And
may
I
be
brought
a
up
sleeper.
the tiebreaker thing, the reason that the 2 is ahead of the 65 on the order right now is because the 2 team was higher in owner points at the end of last season than the 65 team.
It was the 38 car there. Jose Mills looks like he had a little bit of trouble keeping it on the top there. I thought he was going to hit the wall. He kind of went down a lane. That may hurt his lap a little bit here.
It seems like every year, it's like, we come to these super speedways, or we come to Daytona in particular, it's like, it always seems like one manufacturer has a bit of an edge over the other. Like, some years it'll be the Ford, some years it'll be the Chevrolet, some years it'll be the Toyota. Some years we get a mixed bag of things, but that's just kind of how it is for some reason.
Speaking of Toyota, have we even seen a Toyota yet? I don't recall seeing one yet.
Your
face is a Toyota.
Oh, Michael needs to go out of the booth for about 5 minutes, put in timeout.
Put him in timeout?
Yeah,
we have
really.
a corner here in the booth. We can just have him stand in.
Yeah, he's gonna have to go on a
like
chalkboard.
Like he did down in Pigeon Forge when he lost the go-kart race.
Yeah, he'll also need to go to a chalkboard.
You mean the go-kart race that Dylan Poteet wasn't at?
Yeah.
He needs to keep writing on a chalkboard. I will not say your face jokes. I will not say your face jokes like 100 times.
Jose Mills, he's got the most wins in Duracell Cup Series history, 10 in total. Mills was actually...
Up to 4th.
No, he was not.
Yeah.
I thought he was a former pole sitter of the 500, but he was not.
You're a former pole sitter of the 500.
The top 4 are just all on top of each other on times. Like, I thought we were going to have a third tied there, but he just barely missed it there.
These times are going to be real close.
RJ Bishop, the 98.
That's an interesting paint scheme. A Kroger Monster blend
Kroger
here.
Monster. Well, RJ Bishop, an employee at Kroger and a
My
Busch
condolences
fan,
my condolences to him for being a Kroger employee.
And here's an onboard with the
He's
98.
got the visor cam.
Yeah, so here's an idea of what it's like to turn a lap at Daytona. Watch that wheel motion. Watch that center tape there. See just how little motion it puts into that input down the back straightaway and into these corners.
Yep, so yeah, for anybody that doesn't know at home there, the best way for qualifying is these super speedway tracks is try to turn the wheel as little as possible in these corners so you don't screw off that speed. And it looks like RJ's doing a pretty good job there and hit a bump there.
Yeah,
hell of a
counter steer
moment.
there, saw right
Yeah.
going to 3.
Yeah, these cars are really weird with the diffuser on the bottom and stuff, so it probably feels different than what they're used to at these tracks.
See that thing bottom out off of 4?
Yeah, he's definitely feeling some things. He's going to try his best here to try to maybe recover that. He may not like his time, or we'll see what he gets.
RJ Bishop waiting.
Oh, wow.
Top of the
Well, I
board.
mean, it
Well,
didn't look-
I guess it was
wasn't
good.
as bad as it wasn't as bad as it looked. That wasn't.
Wow,
Well,
if that
man.
didn't look like a pretty lap, then my goodness. Can you
Well, maybe
imagine
that's
if
what
there
they
was
all were
something that looked
experiencing.
smoother?
Oh, look at this guy. He's not getting the pole.
Well, this car didn't know it was going to be a Ford or a Chevy this season, but here we are as a Chevy, looks like.
Maybe they just
They like
painted a Chevy chassis, a Chevy look on a Ford
A
chassis. Who
Chevy?
knows?
Is it a Chevy?
It's a Shord.
Well, I'll let
do
you guys
like that.
talk.
I do-
I don't want to be a Ford person.
I do like that paint scheme right there, the Menards Peak Antifreeze. We've seen Ryan Blaney run that paint scheme a lot here over the last few years at Daytona, and it's on the 31 car now.
CHOORD.
I'll let you talk because you'll be professional about me. Go ahead.
Yeah, Dylan Poteet, as mentioned, was going to
professional.
drive for Michael Norman Motorsports, who he actually, back in Season 1, drove the number 31 Chevrolet for, but now moving over to the Chevy manufacturer, going to be teaming up at Fortnite Squad Racing.
Terrible team.
Man, oh man.
It's so terrible
See,
your
that's-
voice didn't know how to speak it.
It was.
Well,
that 30
I think he was wanting to stay with Tweenix Racing and stay in the Chevy, but with the Fortnite, since it didn't work out very well. We'll see what we got here. And
Oh,
it's like
wow.
right 12th place. Oh,
Very
I like,
terrible.
well, I like that tiebreaker. At least that's a plus.
Ties with Michael Norman.
But
Yeah, well,
irony
what was that
there.
about being
31 beats 22 always, so we'll
Well,
go with that.
Dylan Poteet last
great? Yeah,
season.
he
drove,
beats
the
he beats
31
him all right,
car.
Beats him all the way into the front end of the wall.
Yeah, Poteet teamed with James Shelley and Ryan Brommer in the 31 car last season. That team finished 8th in overall standings, and Michael Norman, team he drove for last season, the 1 car, they ended up finishing, I believe it was 12th in overall points. Did not make it into the playoffs.
Well, this is an appropriate sponsor to have here down in
Yeah, there you
Daytona
go.
Beach, Florida.
Maybe a little
Orlando,
Disney
not
magic.
very far away. Disney Plus.
This is Nathan Ormond. Ormond, I think, has driven every manufacturer but Chevrolet now. He drove Dodge when he was with Joanna Atwood Motorsports. When he made his debut, the Joanna Atwood Motorsports team was with Toyota. So now over with KEB Racing Enterprises in a Ford Mustang. There's a couple of drivers, actually, that we're going to see here tonight that have driven 3 of the 4 main manufacturers here in Duracell Cup Series competition.
Everybody wanted to be Robbie Gordon.
And Ormond is going to
7th.
clock in the 7th position. So right now he is the highest of the 2 KB Racing Enterprises cars that have gone out. We still have 1 more that is yet to go out here.
A nice scheme also. Speaking of a nice scheme,
This
is
is going to be very difficult for me this season to remember to call the driver of the number 93, Rick Johnson. Now, obviously, Rick Johnson is his NR 2003 name when he's racing off-lane, racing online, but I've met this guy in person. I'm so used to calling him Jovan Anderson. I watched back when
call
I
him
was
Jovan in
doing
my
the Clash
series.
and the Clash qualifying events, and I called him Jovan Anderson, so bear with me if I don't give the name that shows up on your ticker each week. I'm probably going to, several times this season, call him by his actual name.
That's
Well,
why.
it's easy.
That's why I went ahead and just named him Jovan in my series.
I mean, it's easy. You see the 93 Amco car, you know who it is. Regardless of the name, you know it's the same person. I mean, that's, Jovan and in that paint scheme, it's just, we've seen it so many times over the years. I mean, I think everybody's used to it by now.
And which team is he driving for?
He's driving for Michael Norman Motorsports, making his
Oh, that's
Duracell Cup
unfortunate.
Series debut.
Oh, so maybe that's who I got replaced
And
with over
he's
there.
second on the board. Second driver to hit the 3.4s, 2 thousandths off of RJ Bishop's current fastest lap.
Well,
All
I
right,
get-
guys. I just want to say it's been very fun up here, but me and Kyle have a prior commitment we got to go to, and good luck to everybody.
All right. We got the
Buddy
rookie
left
Sam
the
Ryder.
Buddy was moved out of
I
your
mentioned we
channel.
had a third entry of KB Racing Enterprises. Didn't realize that that driver was waiting so quickly in the wings. The McDonald's Ford. Sam Ryder going to be making his debut in the Duracell Cup Series. One thing I was thinking on, Dylan, was the fact that obviously this new car for these drivers this season, so everybody gonna kind of be going to school. Is this the perfect year to break into the series as a rookie, just knowing that kind of everybody's on a level playing field in the unknowns of this next-gen car?
I mean, I would think so because, like I said, when you had the other car before, the drivers, they all knew what to expect and how they drove, and the teams kind of knew how to set them up and get the drivers what they need. It was going to be tougher for these guys to move up and have to compete with those guys, but you're basically hitting the reset button with the new car. Now, some of these guys did get a little bit of experience last season, but it wasn't a whole lot because they were like every 3 weeks they would race. But nonetheless, I would agree. I think this would be the best time to get in the series because I feel like it's almost level playing field for everybody, including these rookies here, as we're going to see what the 63 here could do. And Samuel is going to jump up to 8th.
Samuel Ryder is actually going to be the first driver in Duracell Cup Series history to pilot the number 63. That number has never been used prior to that.
And good to see McDonald's on the car. It's always good to see them on the track.
I think that might be the first time we've ever seen the 13 in the Duracell Cup Series as well. This is Cody Lamas.
Very awkward number to see him in, but...
Cody Lamas, most of his career, drove for Michael Norman Motorsports. Last season, drove along with Michael Norman and Trent Dunham in the one car. Actually went to Victory Lane at not Circuit of the Americas. My mistake, was actually at Road America. I was trying to remember which road course it was.
Well, did he keep a foul counter for you?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you can be the Matt McIntyre of this broadcast. But when Michael Norman Motorsports made the announcement they were moving over to Ford, Cody is a Chevrolet bow tie driver through and through, so elected to instead move to his own single car team of Llama Motorsports, and a native Floridian here. Of course, got Florida Panthers represented on that Chevrolet Camaro.
Yeah, I definitely think it would be another threat up here. Now, being a single car team and a new car and everything, it raised a lot of eyebrows to see how they're going to do that by themselves. It could be beneficial being the only car, but also you have nobody to lean on. So it could be kind of both sides where you look at it and see what it's going to be. But see where he clocks in here.
It's like 20th.
20th.
Yeah.
Well, that may be, like I said, kind of going back to the single car deal. They don't have anybody really to lean on, but it also could be race setup. So we don't really know.
Not sure if they have a technical alliance with any particular team. There are some big Chevrolet teams out there. You got Pigeon Racing. You've got Joanna Atwood Motorsports. So we see
That's true.
One of their representatives here. You got Evans Gardner Motorsports. So I don't know if there's a technical alliance that the 13 team has, but if there is, certainly got to feel that they're going to be leaning on them, especially here during Daytona 500 weekend, where you've got to have friends on the racetrack to get to the front.
That is true, and I'm going to let you run solo on this one car because I'm going to go to the little boys' room, and I'll let you talk about Joshua Osborne real quick.
Okay, so Joshua Osborne is, I believe this is his first full-time season. He did run last year, ran as one of the 3 drivers in the 27 car, and then the season before, he ended up driving in a non-charter capacity for Evans Gardner Motorsports in the 56. But he did make enough chartered starts between season 4 and last season that you see he does not have the rookie stripes. He has made over 15 starts in the charter series in his career, as he's going to hit the line, and he's currently going to clock in 10th position, just about 8 1,000ths quicker than his Joanna Atwood Motorsports teammate, James Qualls. Chris Dollerton, the inaugural champion of the Duracell Cup Series, now on track in the number 43 Whataburger Ford Mustang out of Michael Norman Motorsports. And here is your Whataburger on board with the 43 car. Dollerton, of course, when he ended up winning his championship back in season 1, only went to victory lane one time. That was at the dirt track of Fuel Motorsports Park. Love these onboards. You get to kind of experience what the driver is experiencing. You see him right down there on that double yellow line going into turn 3. Turn it up the track a little bit there to get that nice arc into the 3rd corner.
And I is back.
You is back. The Ford drivers have to be feeling good when they go out on the track right now, right? I mean, we've got 4 of them up inside of the top 5 in terms of speed.
Yeah, it definitely looks like they've got something figured out. At least at the super speedway track. Like I said, it's early in the season to really determine this. It's a nice little roof cam we got here going on with the 43.
20th is where Chris Dollerton is going to be. So you got the Fords up at the top, but on the flip side, you got Norman, now Dollarton, Jesse Turner down near the bottom of the speed charts.
And some of them are on the same team as well, and we're seeing them on different ends of the list. So I'm trying to figure out, like I said, maybe some teams opted for the race setup more than the qualifying speed. But, you know, it's going to be hard to really say because late racing, never know when something's going to happen. A big wreck could happen. You could be up front getting the wreck. You could be in the very back waiting all race and still get caught up in something. So it's honestly a crapshoot, really, where you start and just see what happens, I guess.
Got Levi McIntyre in the number 99. He is another single car team at Shadow Cult Racing. We saw this team last season with Levi McIntyre, Andrea Serra, and I'm trying to remember the third driver's name, and I can't seem to pull it in. But this team did go winless last year. It's actually been a couple of seasons since Levi McIntyre's been to victory lane as he brings the Andy Caps Fry's Mustang to the line, and whoa!
Jumped to second. Oh, actually tied with RJ Bishop. Oh,
tied
wow.
with RJ Bishop.
Man, and unfortunately, I'm going to assume he's going to lose his tiebreaker to RJ as well.
And, oh my gosh, I'm looking right now. The 2 team was 18th in overall points. The 99 team was 19th in overall points. The gap was 2 points in last year's standings.
And in a crazy world, they could end up being in the front row if nobody else beats them, and that's all it took was 2 points. Just 2 positions.
You think there's not something to race for at the end of the season if you're not in the playoffs?
Just wait till you get to Daytona and qualify, and you're trying to get the pole, and you lose the tiebreaker because of it.
Man.
That's crazy.
This is a driver I'm going to be keeping my eye on this season. Laura Chung, rookie for Auto Junction Racing, the number 77. Maybe for 2 reasons, driver and car. Because that 77 car has been handed from driver to driver the past couple of seasons. Patrick Smith, Casey Nanico, Roberta Crown Jr., they've all been to victory lane in it. But Laura Chung, the last time we saw her, she drove for Mills Motorsports, the number 27 in Season 4 in a non-charter capacity, made a couple of starts, but had a 3rd place finish at Pocono in the charter race. So definitely shows when she can make the races, she can be competitive.
Yeah, the limited experience, but it did definitely show the potential. As it looks like she jumped up to 8th there, so good lap there. And I think this is also the first Toyota we've seen as well make a time. So we're going to see what they have in store for us as well. But definitely a good qualifying effort. And she's going to be a sleeper, I think, this season. I don't know what all she can do, but I expect some good things out of Laura Chung this season.
You bring up the fact that, you know, that's the first Toyota we've seen. And last season and this season, the Toyotas have been vastly outnumbered as Ali Liera, the Season 1 pole sitter for the Daytona 500 on the racetrack here in the AccuDoc Solutions Chevrolet. I know
Very nice scheme.
I was going to say, that's a scheme that you approve of.
I may have ran the sponsor here and there before.
But
still
going
with
back
it today.
to the Toyota conversation, this year Toyota's only going to be fielding 5 teams, or 5 cars, I should say, in between 2 teams. So even when you think about in a super speedway race being vastly outnumbered, however, Toyota is coming into the Great American Race as the defending manufacturer. Matt Haas took the checkered flag here 1 season ago.
Yeah, that's true. Like it kind of feels like real life between Gibbs and like 2011 racing and stuff. But they may find each other in the race and work together. Like I said, they're definitely outnumbered, but I think they'll be solid for sure. As Allie's going to finish her lap here, jump the 16 car up to
20th.
20th.
49.386, which is
like
surprising because Rob Evans, her teammate, was up in the 3.55 range. So
yeah, the Chevys overall, I feel like they're kind of been mostly mid-pack to the back. Now, the Fords may just have something better for qualifying, but like I said, it sounds like a broken record at this point. They also could be just kind of working toward just the race itself, but not really sure. Just seems like the Fords definitely are outdoing the Chevys, and we don't have really many opportunities to look at the Toyotas like we do here to see what they've got. Got about 4 more chances to see if maybe one of them get up there and maybe steal the pole here. And we've got the 80 car here, Noah Hendrickson.
Could be the rookie teammate to Matt Haas out of Haas Racing. And, you know, you bring up the fact, too, of the drivers down there at the bottom of your speed charts. That doesn't mean that they're going to be starting at the rear of the field for the Daytona 500. They're still going to have an opportunity this Thursday in the Blame Shelley Insurance Duels to improve their starting positions. The only spots right now that are getting locked in, I'll put that in air quotes, is the front row because we know that in the duels, for whoever ends up being first and second at the end of today, They're the subsequent pole sitters for the upcoming dual races, but they must keep those cars intact. They cannot go to a backup car or they forfeit their front row starting spots.
That is true.
Good run there from
And
Hendrickson.
yep, up to 9th.
So the Toyotas, the two that
Right
have been
there
out,
with, yep, right behind Chung. Yep.
right there in the top 10.
Yeah, that would have been a good point to bring up. Didn't even really think about that, but yeah, the duels. Some of these guys may just be getting their car set up just early, get ready for the dual race because they can just race their way up to the front, and then they're just going to be up front if they survive. You know, some of these guys may just have qualifying full in, and maybe their car is not going to handle that great in the dual races, and they may struggle to keep their spot, and maybe end up mid pack or in the back. So we could see everything just flip flop for the race coming to the duel before the 500.
And people might be wondering, well, why would you do that? Well, from when the checkered flag waves on this session to the duels on Thursday, these cars are impounded. You can make no adjustments on them. So, you know, while the car may be handling really good and be really fast here for those drivers up at the top of the board right now, they could be a handful when they're in traffic when the green flag flies on Thursday.
Yeah, they may not handle very good, and some of these guys may be taped up, or, well, I don't know if they're actually taped up. They may, I'm used to old cars. I don't think they do tape anymore, but see, we're still learning these cars as well. It used to be that some of these guys would tape it up, and then they couldn't do anything to their car, and they were worried about overheating in the dual race, but nonetheless, we got the 44 here.
Reese Banks.
Reese Banks. That's a nice scheme also, by the way.
That scheme during the Clash weekend last week was making me hungry, I'm telling you. Banks 23rd on the board.
I was trying to find where they drop it. Just kind of getting through here. We're already 28 cars down. Look at how close the times are. A 49.347 is the pole lap. And Jesse Turner's in 28th is last right now. A 49.404. Almost like half a tenth. That's all it is. That's how everybody's literally on top of each other in time. So, I mean, it's just like, it's come down to just fractions of like a tenth people to get, you know, maybe the difference of like 10 spots versus, you know, being in the back. Like, this is just kind of crazy how on top of it everybody is.
Well, Daytona and Dale Earnhardt, pretty anonymous terms with each other. And got Cole Deaver in that very familiar Wheaties GM Goodwrench Chevrolet.
Deaver broke into the car for that team?
Yes, you would be correct. Yeah, we actually, with Reese Banks completing his lap, all of the Lake Effect Autosports Fords have now completed their laps. Deaver, his rookie season was season 4. Went to victory lane for his first career win at Indy Road Course, followed it up with a second win that season, but last year was winless in that three-way effort with Shelton and Charles Sanford. See what
Deaver clocks in.
Ooh.
Oh, third. Man, he actually tied with Rick Johnson there. It looks like he's going to get the tiebreaker since I think he's a new driver, I believe, at that point. So that was kind of an easy. That's an unfortunate deal for Johnson because if he gets in tiebreakers, it's a brand new team. You're basically going to lose that almost every time. So, nonetheless, Deaver, great lap there. Top qualifying Chevy as well right now, I believe.
That would be correct. You'd have to go down to Rob Evans in 7th for the next Chevrolet bow tie. As you've got the Ford of Daniel Voiles out on the racetrack.
Speaking of schemes that make you get hungry and
stuff,
this is another one.
With all these food and drink related sponsors, I feel like this is a ploy just to get us hungry up here in the booth.
Nice looking Mustang for sure for Daniel Voiles, and see if he can kind of back it up with that nice scheme here. It looks like he's holding a pretty line down here toward the yellow line. We'll see if 3 and 4. I think that definitely, like you said 4 is definitely tough for these drivers. Look like they're having a handful, get off that corner and make sure they don't lose it as well. So I think that's where they may be gaining their time. If you can really get off 3 and 4 really well, you're probably going to have a really good qualifying effort.
Single car entry out of World NOS Racing. Now let's see where he's going to clock into. Levi McIntyre's single car Ford was 2nd on the board, and Voiles is 16th. 49.7 or 374.
Still wondering if the track is starting to change a little bit for these guys, but then as soon as I think that, then we have one driver go up pretty far up and another one that doesn't get very far. It's kind of hit or miss at this point.
Now remember we said that Kyle came into this season as one of the defending champions. With the fact we had 3 drivers per car last season, we have 3 defending champions coming into Season 6. Now, Stephen Pollard III, who is another of those defending champions, is not in the series, but here is the other one, the driver who effectively clinched the championship for Matthews, Pollard, and himself, rookie Caleb Fogler. Again, a rookie because he only made 12 starts last season, but it was Fogler's highest finish at Homestead in the finale that ended up putting the S3 Motorsports team in the championship victory lane.
And just to kind of just think of the position that this driver's in. You're a rookie, but you're technically a defending champion at the same time. Like, I don't know if that's ever happened before.
You're also in a car for Blue Oval Automotive that has won the 500 back in Season 4 with Trey Wright.
Well, there's no pressure at all for him, I don't think, in this
None.
race. He's defending champion, cards won the 500. He's got about everything going for him.
16th on the board, looks like.
Maybe not qualifying, but nonetheless, he's got probably a lot on his shoulders. Like them being, this is a unique situation, having multiple people in the series, like 2 people as the defending champions. Like that's unheard of.
And think about this with Fogler. He was the 3rd driver of that team, so he's actually making his first Daytona 500 start.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see how that goes. And I'm sure there's a load of pressure on that driver just going into the season.
You can say the same for this guy, Reggie Fogelman, the number 24 out of Northeast Motorsports. Fogelman did not drive the 500 last season. Matter of fact, he didn't even have a ride by the time the Daytona 500 came around in Season 5. He ended up driving eventually for 4 Racing Enterprises, teaming up with Daniel Silla and Chris Washer, and that team didn't get formed until I think it was like 5 or 6 weeks into the season, and he actually did find victory lane in that Dodge. So what a coup for Northeast Motorsports to pick up this guy.
Yeah, and I was actually watching his lap there. He actually drifted all the way to the outside wall coming off turn 2, which we haven't seen a lot of people do that. I was curious to see what he's going to do for his lap here. It looks like he is 15th, so I guess he was maybe trying something different. You may see some drivers try something, just maybe try to find that 10th or so they need, or like half a 10th, I guess, in this rate. But yeah, and it's definitely going to be an interesting season for sure for him. Like I said, having the win definitely helps. We know he's capable of getting a victory and stuff, but now he's in a full-time capacity, and definitely I think could be a threat week by week.
He'll also have the opportunity to lean on the veteran experience of teammates like Austin LaPlante and Benjamin Miles, multi-time winners in the Duracell Cup Series. Same could be said for this guy, rookie Quentin Moore. He's got James Qualls and Joshua Osborne, who we've seen already previously on the track, that have vasts of Duracell Cup Series experience.
Yeah, I was looking at his teammates here, see where they are. See, Osborne looks like he's in 14th, and Qualls is 19th, so they're kind of down the list a little bit here. So let's see what this 89 car you put up on the board. So we're going to see. And I've actually been to a Buc-ee's. I did that for the first time this past year when I was down there in Florida. Definitely a great store. I see why there was a lot of hype around that. It's a very interesting store for sure, and I would recommend. Definitely.
I've driven by a Buc-ee's in New Orleans. Does that count?
Well, I mean, you can see what it looks like. I guess you don't know what the experience
That's as
is
close
inside.
as I've gotten.
And looks like he is
right in the middle. 17.
Yeah, he kind of just blended in with his teammates there. And again, like that, I'm not really, unless there's a Chevy team that really is going to stand out and just steal the show, I'm not seeing a lot of Chevys really making a threat for that pole outside like Cole Deaver and Rob Evans. So, I'm still thinking maybe a Ford's got the advantage at this point, maybe to get the pole.
Got the Chevrolet now, rookie Jack Dunnard. The Budweiser Chevrolet, first time, if I recall correctly, first time in the history of Duracell Cup Series that the 88 car is being driven by somebody other than William Brock. Brock started out in the 88 back in Season 1, was a mainstay in the 88, but did not re-sign with Northeast Motorsports here going into Season 6. So Dunnard was the driver that was tabbed, and saw him put up a really good show there in his qualifying heat back in the Clash last week, but I don't know, any momentum for any driver I don't think really would carry over from Bowman Gray here to Daytona, because it's just 2 entirely different racetracks.
Yeah, your mindset just has to reset and just focus on a completely different aspect of it and stuff. And he's actually jumped up to 12th. I just looked at the number. I know it looks like Trent's not in the series this season, but I want to see Dunnard and I want to think Dunham in my head like crazy now. So.
Well, I mean, the worst part is, and I said this last week, it's going to be a big problem for me. I don't know why. I see that it says Dunnard, but the voice in my head wants me to call him Durant. I kind of swapped the R and the N around in his name for some reason.
Man, that 87 car, it kind of reminded me of the 38. That car, I don't know if it was in the wall, but that Twix bar definitely may have scraped a couple pieces off of that bar. I was really close there for this young driver, Ryan Broomer. I think, is it Broomer, I believe? Brahmer.
Brahmer.
All right. Well, there's my.
Well, I mean, remember when
fail.
I told you that there were a couple of drivers in the field that have driven just about every manufacturer? Yeah, Ryan Brahmer
This one of
is
them?
that driver. The only manufacturer he has not driven in his career is a Ford. He started out in a Dodge, teammate to Zach Rogers for several seasons at Bulldog Motorsports. Last year, he drove a Chevrolet for Pigeon Racing, and now in a Toyota for Auto Junction Racing.
I believe this is Laura Chung's teammate here, I believe, just by looking at the
Correct.
number font. Yep. Well, I actually forgot to mention, too, when I was talking about the Chevys may not be a threat really for the pole unless something crazy happened, but these Toyotas, I mean, Laura Chung was up there, and Hendrickson, they were both in the top 10. I know we only have 5 of them, but there's a chance the Toyota may steal one of it. Oh, actually, wow. Just join right under the list with them. Just drops to 11th there, so they're all nose to tail right there.
You gotta wonder, to your point, if he maybe did brush the wall a little bit off of turn 4, and if he did, that scrubs off a little bit of speed, a little bit of momentum. And
Well,
here's
this
the
is
car I'm
exciting.
curious about, because this is the project car on the season. Mazda makes its debut in the Duracell Cup Series. That is Nick Gunther behind the wheel of that Schneider Electric Mazda. This is fielded out of Fortnite Squad Racing. We've never seen this manufacturer before. We got to see it kind of make its debut last week in the Clash, and it ended up DNFing in dead last. So far, not so good for that particular manufacturer.
So I'm going to go on a limb. This is the technical 4th manufacturer in the series,
Yeah,
and the
pretty
one and
much.
only.
Pretty much the one and only.
Well, so I'm not sure how a Mazda will work together with the Chevy with that team, but nonetheless, maybe a treat for us. We'll get to see what it is. Maybe they'll steal the pole. We don't know what a Mazda does. We've never seen one on the track here before. It's a very nice looking car for sure, but that's talk about complete unknown. This car here is literally the epiphany of that. So
8th place, not bad.
it looks like it's got speed.
Definitely has speed, tied with Jose Mills. And by benefit of owner points, the Nick Gunther, who drove the 55 last season for Gunther Motorsports. That team was higher than the 38 team in points. That 38 team struggled last year. It was really interesting because you had such strong drivers in Mills, Lopez, and Trey Wright, and they just couldn't seem to even get up inside of the top 20 in points. As we look at Benjamin Miles, the Overtaker Benjamin Miles, making his return to the Duracell Cup Series. This is kind of the Ric Flair of the Duracell Cup Series because he was really strong in the 25, eventually went to the 33 for Northeast Motorsports, then decided to retire, decided to go into an administrative position, and then he got the opportunity to come back here this season, said heck yeah, and he's back here with the familiar black and yellow Hertz sponsorship.
Man, that really hurts just hearing those comments. No, I had to do it. I was trying.
What'd you do?
So
Go
hard.
to the Darrell Waltrip School of Puns or something?
No, it was Michael's school.
Oh, no, you would have had a your face joke involved in there somewhere.
Yeah, those hurt too.
Benjamin Miles, he was really strong during preseason Thunder testing at the different tracks we were at. So let's see where he clocks in.
Hopefully, he got the speed like that car. It looks pretty smooth. Oh, actually,
25th for the 25.
Yeah, I don't know if that was intentional or not, but I don't think he's gonna be very happy with that effort. Now,
Pretty far off of a few of his teammates there.
Now, there's one thing about this with the qualifying. I would say you'd either want to be up front if you qualify, or just be in the very back. Being in the middle is probably the absolute worst place to be. And
Yeah, don't be
Benjamin
in the
being
eye
about
of the storm.
25th. Yeah, like 25th. That's not a very good place to be, honestly. Like right in that area. I know we still have the dual races, but that's where you don't want to start when the Daytona 500 starts. You don't want to be in the middle because you never know. It could be lap 1 we have a big wreck. You just never know.
This, I believe, is the next to last of our Toyotas. We're still yet to see defending Daytona 500 winner Matt Haas make an appearance. But this is Ryan Butcher in the 78 car. 78 car last season won the regular season championship. Went to victory lane 3 times with 2 different drivers going to victory lane. Butcher had one of those victories. The other 2 belonged to Diego Yepes. Really looked like the team to beat for the championship last year, but they came up just short to the 09 team.
Yeah, and I think they've got a lot of motivation to try to just one-up what they did last season. They got a lot on their side, like a lot of momentum. Maybe they know a few things more than some of these other teams. I think clocks, it looks like in 10th place.
Look at those Toyotas. 10th,
They're
11th, 12th.
Wow. Well, the next one may end up being right with them as well. We still got one more. I may be a little biased. It's nice to see the 78 car again this season. I may be a little biased. It may have been where I started my career a long, long time ago, but nonetheless.
6-time winner Ryan Butcher, as we look now at Anthony McCurry, the number 61. And he's racing this season for Fortnite Squad Racing, the Turkish Airlines Chevrolet Camaro. It's been a long time since we've seen Anthony McCurry behind the wheel of a Duracell Cup Series car, so you got to wonder if there's any race rust.
That's true, and I believe some of the teammates have not qualified very well. I know we had the 31 and 29th. I think we had the 66 didn't qualify very well. I mean, let me see where he went. He's 14th. Did anybody else qualify for that team? I'm trying to think. Oh, Nick Gunther was actually the one, but he's in a Mazda, so he's kind of a wild card.
Yeah,
so.
he's got the asterisk beside him.
I think, was that all of them? I think that's the 4 of them right there.
Yeah, the 66 actually is not a Fortnite Squad Racing car.
Gotcha.
That's out of Evans Gardner.
Gee, I wonder where I got that idea from.
I'm trying to think. Was the other? Oh yeah, we do have another one still to come. Former Daytona 500 winner Carson Gum.
Oh, gotcha. And Anthony's going to come across the line, see what his first lap is back, and he is 6th place. Well, he just proved me wrong.
Yeah, look at that.
He's out-qualified the Mazda on the team.
That car just flew into the top 10.
It really did. I see what you did there.
Yeah, if you can pun, I can pun too.
Well, I guess we were both just double negatives today.
Here's Austin LaPlante, the Ally Chevrolet. He has spent his entire career with Northeast Motorsports. He's pretty much spent his entire career in the 48 car as well. LaPlante, a 5-time winner in the Duracell Cup Series, but the Daytona 500 has not been that friendly to Austin LaPlante. So trying to kind of, I don't know, like maybe scare away the Daytona 500 gremlins here this season?
I mean, it seems like some drivers will find a track or a race that just doesn't want to cooperate with them, basically. And that's kind of what Austin is with this Daytona 500. They go run really well elsewhere, but as soon as you show up at Daytona, it's like, well, I know what's going to happen here. It's not going to be good, no matter what I do. So, I mean, he gets like maybe the Dale Senior treatment here. Maybe he has a lot of bad runs here, and then eventually we'll get that one. But it could possibly happen this season.
Well, Chevrolet, in the past 3 Daytona 500s, have gone to victory lane 3 times.
That's
Ford
good
has
for him.
1 victory, and of course, Matt Haas in the Toyota last season. Toyota has 1.
See where LaPlante
clock in at 34th.
Well, he's going to have his work cut out, and he lost a tiebreaker there, and that to Jessica Sheldon, it looks like, as well. I didn't realize she had dropped pretty far down, but that whole team, oh, Lord. Okay, well, I am almost 100% sure that 8 car was in the fence, so
I
that
am too.
may not be good.
Well,
oh man,
may not be the lap time that Matt Haas is looking for, the defending Daytona
Toyota
500 victor. As a matter of fact, Matt Haas and Cole Baker are the only 2 drivers that have started in their career on the pole at Daytona in the 500 and won a Daytona 500, but they didn't do it in the same season, neither one. Haas won the pole in Season 2, won the 500 Season 5. Baker won the pole Season 3, won the 500 the year earlier in Season 2.
Well, this was the last Toyota we had as well, so we were wanting to see. He was the last hope for them to get the pole, but I mean, unless he somehow never lost speed, I just don't see it happening. What we saw the lap before, because the camera changed and he, I swear, was in the wall. There, his car is white, so we're not going to be able to tell if there's paint that rubbed off because it's just going to blend in.
Well, Brahmer was the question mark in the wall when we looked the last time, and he was 14th. Let's see if Haas is any better or not. 19th. So yeah, I think he definitely scrubbed some speed off there, off of 4.
And that was weird. The Toyotas, a couple of them were having, it looked like, handling issues there in the same spot. So I'm wondering if that was a Toyota thing or what, but I'm not quite sure. And this looks to be the last car. It's out of Fortnite Squad Racing.
It's the last car for the session.
Yep, Carson Gum. We were just speaking about him in the Baja Blast Mountain Dew scheme.
Carson
the
Gum,
19.
7-time winner, former Duracell Cup Series champion, and former Daytona 500 winner from Season 3. Trying to see if he can knock the Fords off the front row right now. R.J. Bishop, Levi McIntyre, the scheduled front row for the Great American Race.
Oh my goodness, can you imagine if it comes down, if he knocks, if he just gets ahead of both of them, the tiebreaker's going to knock one of those 2 Fords off the front row. Like, it's going to be wild if they end up hanging on, but what could have been for Levi, but we'll see what Carson's got here. So far, looks good. Teammates are not, well, 2 of his teammates are qualified good. I shouldn't say his other one didn't, but like I said, we'll see what happens here.
See what Carson's able to do off turn 4. Ooh, that left front got a little close to the yellow line.
He's going to cut down probably quickly here. Try to get any time he can get. You know that transition can't be easy in these cars either. Trying not to lose it.
Is it enough for Carson Gum? Doesn't look like it.
25th.
25th.
Well, it looks like
Former
half the
champ.
it's like half the squad over there were set up maybe for race. The other ones were for qualifying. But nonetheless, RJ Bishop in a tiebreaker of all things is going to be the pole sitter for the Daytona 500, and Levi is going to start second. How about that?
RJ Bishop still looking for his first career win. How amazing would that be for him if he were to do it here in the 500?
Look at this.
Third and fourth are tied. 2 points. I mentioned it before.
How many
Bishop
times
and
are in the top
McIntyre and
12?
owner points, 2 point separation from last year's standings. That's the difference for the Daytona 500 pole.
First and second tied, third and fourth tied, seventh and eighth tied, ninth and 10th tied, and 11th and 12th tied. Like, this is insane.
How about the rookies? Great runs there for Rick Johnson, William Hoer. Going to be starting up there close to the front in their respective duels. Of course, the odd numbers will be in duel 1. The even numbers will be in duel 2. And then you go down here to the second page, and there's a couple of names that you're kind of looking at thinking we probably would have seen up towards the top of the board and kind of wondering why they're as far back as they are. Matt Haas, of course.
Matt Haas, for sure, yeah.
That's a big one right there. If he hadn't brushed the wall, what would the lap have been?
Yeah, it's unfortunate there. And we got some heavy hitters toward the back. Some veterans definitely back here. I mean, James Quall's back here.
Yeah,
You see
former pole sitter. Wasn't able to follow it up from last year.
Benjamin Miles, 29th. Unfortunately, there's Benjamin Snyder, Dylan Pote, Michael Norman, Ali Liera, Jessica Sheldon, Austin LaPlante. I mean, there's a lot of people back here. Just usually you think be up front. Just didn't have a qualifying effort. And we even got a couple back here. I mean, Sanford, Dollarton, Matthews, Lamas, Turner.
It's a lot of the S3 Motorsports cars back here. I think Deaver was the only one of that team that qualified anywhere up inside the top 10.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder what they were doing there, but nonetheless, now the attention's going to be towards the duels. I mean, now you're really going to set yourself up where you're starting for the 500 and how it's going to go.
So tentatively, RJ Bishop has got the pole position for the 500. Levi McIntyre will be starting to his outside. They'll have to keep their cars intact in the upcoming duels. The rest of the grid will be set with those upcoming Blame Shelley Insurance duels on Thursday. That's going to be at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But wow, what a session here today. It ended up being a tie for the fastest lap, and it came down to last year's owner points to decide that tiebreaker.
Two whole points determine who was going to be the pole sitter and who was going to start second. You think Levi thinks back to last season. If there's like 2 or 3 spots I could have got in one of those races.
Yeah, in just one race, if I'd finished 2 spots ahead.
Well, you got to make it dramatic here in the Duracell Cup Series, and we've already got to start here today.
We haven't even taken the green for the 500, and the drama's already starting.
We already have one driver, Matt, even though he didn't get the pole. He's still on the front row, but he wants to be the pole sitter because nobody remembers who starts second. It's always who starts on the pole.
That's true. That's true. The statistics are usually looking at the pole sitter. Second place is, well, he was there.
I was going to say, do you remember?
Unless he wins the 500. But what an amazing start to this Daytona 500 weekend. Congratulations to RJ Bishop and Levi McIntyre, as their 2 fastest laps have them currently locked in as the front row for the upcoming Great American Race. We hope you guys enjoyed this session here today. Be sure to tune in this Thursday for those upcoming Blame Shelley Insurance duels to set the rest of the 500. And then next Sunday, it's the Great American Race, the Daytona 500, here to start off the official season, 6th season of the NNSCRA Duracell Cup Series. I know that Kyle and Michael had to leave early, but I appreciate them being up in the booth here. And Dylan, it's been a good one. I appreciate you being up in the booth here for this one.
Yeah, it's fun. It's been a while since I've been up here, I think, for one of these races. So it was fun to come up here and commentate again, kind of like the good old times and such. And now we got to change the focus to the race car and what's ahead for us and the team. Qualified poorly, but that's what the duel's for, to hopefully fix that and go from there. And we'll see what happens. Try to get this 500. Still looking for my first one, and maybe it'll be this season.
Could be this season. A lot of drivers looking for that Daytona 500 victory. For a number of them, looking for their first career win, and what a win it would be. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in to today's Pole Day qualifying session. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe, become part of the crew today. You saw moments ago that lineup for today and the subsequent lineups for the upcoming Blame Shelley Insurance duels on Thursday. Until then, for Michael Norman, Kyle Matthews, and Dylan Poteet, I'm Seth Cole. Thanks for watching another broadcast here on NNSCRA TV, Offline Racing at its best.